My name is Cheryl Hamilton. I am the director of Suitcase Stories, which is one of the signature programs of the International Institute of New England. Suitcase Stories we launched 3 years ago as a way to foster inclusive communities and particularly raise the voices of refugees and immigrants, people like Rehema Rwakabuba, who is with us tonight. Hi, Rehema.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The International Institute of New England is a 100-year-old organization that has been welcoming and assisting refugees and immigrants. We have several signature programs. We help with refugee resettlement, English instruction, employment services, as well as legal services, and then of course, Suitcase. When we are not all at home, Suitcase has had organizes live shows in the community. We do workshops called Suitcase Stories Unpacked, and we are going to be launching a podcast shortly. But during this time of people being at home, we also launched these new virtual opportunities to engage with us, including our Wednesday night webinars. And also we've been doing more virtual storytelling classes. So you can look for that information coming up. But tonight we're here to get to know one of our storytellers. We've had over 200 people from over 70 countries tell a story in Suitcase, and Rehema was one of the first. So Rehema first performed at our Weston show, and then she traveled down to Hingham, and then she started to visit schools when we expanded into school assemblies, which we do at high schools. So I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
So why don't you give us a little bit about your background, where you're born, what was your journey that brought you to the US?
So again, my name is Rehema Rwakabuba, and shout out to my friends. Hi guys. Good. So yeah, I was born in the Congo, and about like 6 to 8 years old, the civil war broke out, and I and the whole family decided to pretty much leave. So we left, and then we went to Rwanda, and then things were not quite going like the way we expected. So we moved to Uganda, and in Uganda we were refugee for about 6 years. Again, living in Uganda, it wasn't quite easy. We had to wait for about 2 years to go to school. And when we went to school, it was quite challenging because back home we were studying in French, as my country was colonized by French. And then we, started going to school, and then right about like 2008, my family and I moved to the United States, Massachusetts, as refugees. Yeah.
And what was like life for you in Uganda?
Honestly, looking back, I can say it was, when you're in a situation you don't know if it's good or bad, but I can say looking back, it was really challenging. At first, school wasn't free, and my mom couldn't afford paying school fees for all, for me and my other sisters, which is about 5 of us. So we had to wait, and right after 2 years living in Uganda, we got a scholarship from a Christian church, and then they paid for our school fees. So we started going to school, but at the same time we had to walk, which the walk was quite like long. We had to we used to get up from 6, and then we'll go to school, come back in the evening as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you actually talk about your story you talk about going to school in your story. And in fact, your story is about first being in Uganda in school and then coming to the US. Can you talk about that day when your mom came to school?
Yeah, so when I was in a primary 7 in Uganda, which is quite equivalent to 8th grade here in America, so we were pretty much finishing primary school, and we were getting ready for our national exam. And then I could remember my mom, she came, it was an unusual visit because usually my mom never came to my school unless she had to get our progress report. So
like all parents.
Yeah, so she came, and then she waited until the school was done. So we walked right outside the gate, and then my mom said that, she said in Swahili, visa yetu ilikuya, meaning that our visa came to go to United States. So I remember me and my sisters jumping and hugging her. We just screamed. And the end, I remember the only thing was going in my mind. I was like, oh my goodness, I need to calm down because I have exam. So
Like
I
you
really
stopped.
go, yeah, it was, I was excited at the same time. I was like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know how things is going to be. So I was really nervous, but at the same time, I was excited.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this a lot. It is remarkable that you were able to come when we think about how little refugee resettlement is available to people. It's less than 1% of the world's refugee population that is granted that opportunity. So we always see it as a blessing when you show up and somebody has that chance to rebuild their lives. You were also displaced for almost 10 years.
Right.
And I think that is an incredibly long time, but I think people don't realize that actually is, by standards, it's short, because the average time that people spend as a refugee today is 17 years. And sometimes very difficult to get your head around that.
Right.
At the International Institute of New England, we operate in Boston, Manchester, and Lowell, and you were resettled to Lowell. And our staff there greet every family that arrives at the airport. Now, did you fly through Boston or Manchester?
We flew out to Manchester, yeah.
And what were those first couple days like?
I remember, but we came in July, and it was like it was a night, so people came to pick me up, and we, they just drove us to this house. We didn't know anyone, we didn't know neighbors, and and figuring out like things that, you know, in those first days it was so hard.
Mm.
But you know, having my sisters, we just used to walk around the neighborhood, and you know, knowing we didn't even speak English. We knew a little bit that we learned from Uganda, but it was really challenging in the beginning.
Yeah, that's actually what your story is about. It's about how without English at the time, it was hard for you to make friends, and you were really excited to make friends.
Oh yeah.
So, can you talk about that time? I mean, you're 14 and you're like anybody, you want to belong, right?
Yeah, I was 14 years old, and pretty much I went, you know, I'm like, my mom was like, okay, this is where you guys are going to make your life, things like that, school. So I was ready to start my life, you know, make friends, but at the same time, I didn't speak that much English. You know, there were some Africans, but I knew that some of them knew a little bit of the languages that I spoke, but maybe some of them, they might have used to English. So speaking to them, it might have been hard, but at the same time, not knowing English, it was so hard to like communicate with some of my friends, the people that I knew.
Mm.
Also, it was hard because when I came, I started ninth grade right away, and I went to high school in my city, and it's so huge, and everyone pretty much knew each other from middle school. So it was so hard to integrate like right away.
And so, in your story, you talk about how your teacher makes a recommendation that you try cross-country running.
Yeah.
Had you been a runner before?
Never. I mean, besides walking to school, but I never really like it before coming to this country. Yeah, she. I used to talk to her so much. I had this friendship with her. I used to show her the books that I came with from Africa, and this book actually was it was a world history class. How we used to take notes every day. So that teacher actually was a history teacher. So I used to show it to her. So we kind of like we had this relationship that, you know, she advised me what to do. So she asked me to join cross country because she knew the coach, and I was like, okay, let me try it out. So I went, and still like I didn't know that many people, but as I kept going, I started getting better, and I started knowing people, and it was so easier for me to like kind of like talk to people, and pretty much I built this self-confidence that even now today, like I still like appreciate.
Are you still running?
Uh, not really, no. I tried to run like my first semester of college, but with work, like schoolwork, it was so much, and I used to run for Division 1 school, like in the high school, and then when I went to my school, it was kind of like a little setback, Division 3, and I just didn't feel like it was too much with schoolwork, so I just kind of,
It's a
yeah.
lot to balance.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I played field hockey in high school and I didn't play in college. So,
Right. Yeah.
when you look back, and you think about what advice you wish you had been given when you came to the US, or what advice you give to other African children, what helped? Like, what should they know?
I would say what helped is that I try as much to get close to like my teachers. They were literally like a great source. Even going to college, it was my teachers. I can't say really, even friends. I tried to make the best friends I could. They like pretty much I can say I tried to get out of my shell, and which I never thought I would, but it really helped me to like move along and see other possibilities.
You also talk in your story about being sort of in the refugee field, we say teens in between. And this refers to refugee children who are straddling both their culture they came from, but also American culture and figuring out what works for them. And you said you and your mom sometimes would disagree about this. Can you talk
Yeah,
about that relationship?
I remember. So I joined track and field in my freshman year of high school, and when I used to go to practice, I used to come like really late. And my mom, we were just like new in the country. My mom didn't know what I was doing. At the same time, I used to work from, it was really far from my house, so I used to work. By the time I would get home, it was really late, and my mom didn't understand what I was doing. So she would go back and forth because she used to see my other sisters going to school and then coming back on time. So for me to explain to her what I was doing, it was so hard. She was just go to school and come back. And one day actually, I came really late. I think we had a meet, and by the time I came back, it was already 8. She was so worried. She was about to call 911.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember when your mom came to see you for your first performance in Weston. You hadn't done storytelling before. How did it feel to stand up there and tell your story for 15 minutes?
Um, I was nervous. And I was really excited for her to actually see me perform. But also, it was my first time telling my story, so I didn't know how people will approach it, like how they will see it from listeners' point of view. But my mom, I could see my mom. I saw my mom in the audience. I was so happy. It pretty much kept me going, and I was just so happy that people came to me after I told my story. They were so happy. They told me to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you've ever told your story in a school, I particularly notice like children who are African themselves, like they just lean in when you tell because they didn't have necessarily the same role models. But we also hear kids of all backgrounds come up to you and be like, it's hard to make friends. It is just hard to make friends. And so you giving them that message was really valuable. I
Right.
also, Rehema, I really respected you because when I met with you to discuss whether you wanted to do this, we talked about a variety of ideas for stories. And
Right.
from the beginning said, I don't want to talk about my life in Africa. I don't want to talk about what I saw. And I was like, good, if you get to choose what story to tell. And I really respected that because I think a lot of people, when they first meet someone like yourself or your family, they're like, ooh, tell me what it was like in the camps or tell me about the war. And I think we forget that that is the most traumatic experience someone's had. And to
Right.
allow people to choose when to share it is really important. And so I love that you were like, I got this other thing I want to talk about, and I want to talk about making friends.
Right. Right.
How is that
Definitely.
translated for college? You're studying poli-sci, right, at Fitchburg State?
Yeah, yeah. So going to college, it was, I remember my first year, it was kind of like, I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know what to expect. Pretty much no one told me what to get ready for.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I don't know, my friend is actually in the audience, but Jania, she was my roommate, and she was my roommate. Pretty much I met so many people in my freshman year, but at the same time I was so nervous because no one in my family had gone to college. Just no one had told me anything about it, so I had to figure it out for myself. But it was I can say it's been a smooth ride, and I can say I mean, I'm finishing this May, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and why did you choose political science?
So I chose political science. Initially, I wanted to study international relations, and poli-sci at my school actually was something that was the closest to international relations. And I chose it because when I was still in high school, I used to translate. I used to help out at the institute to translate for new immigrants. Also, at the same time, I used to help out newcomers at my school. Pretty much, I was kind of like an advocate for them at my high school. So I ended up in my freshman year of high school, same year that I came. I was interning at the institute, and I pretty much came across, helping new immigrants and helping them settling for their for their first day, picking them at the airport. Pretty much, I just saw myself in them, and I wanted to help them in any way possible, so their transition can be a smooth ride. So I chose international relations because I wanted to help same people that who are going through the same experience that I went through, and pretty much I just don't know where it will take me, but I'm just optimistic about it.
I have no doubt you're going to go far.
Thank you.
You and your mother actually both have been an interpreter for our office in Lowell. What is it like? What's hard about interpreting that we don't necessarily understand, those of us that don't have to do that on a daily basis?
I would say one thing about interpreting is that the fact that I can work with you guys, the office people, and I understand where they are coming from, but at the same time talking to the refugees and newcomers, I understand where they are coming from, so it can be a little bit challenging trying to be in the middle and kind of calm down the situation, but at the end I try my best to be in their shoes, at the same time trying to work things to go in the right direction.
Yeah, we have a lot of respect that you're navigating almost like two levels of a relationship, literally the words that we need to have shared between us, but also I've seen many interpreters sort of like help people remain calm or trust, or building a trust between the institute and the clients. So you're really invaluable. Lynn wants to know how many languages you speak and what are they?
Oh, wow. Thank you. So I speak, I would say 4 to about 5. So I speak Kinyarwanda, Luganda, Swahili, and I can understand a little bit French and speak a little bit of it, and English. I mean,
very little.
Yeah. Yeah.
You also, I mean, like many immigrant families, you go to school, you do internships, you also work. And I think right now you're working in behavioral therapy, correct?
Yeah.
How are you able to do that from home? What does that look like?
I mean, because of quarantine, I used to go to the kids' house, but because of quarantine, for somehow they had to shift it to pretty much telehealth, which is a computer. So pretty much I do it every day. Like it's not that bad, honestly. But
what does the job actually involve? Like you said, you're working with children.
Yeah, I just work with this one kid. Pretty much he has I would say like he's autistic, but not really that bad. He's just like in the beginning of it. So he goes to a normal school, things like that. It just like help him with the daily activities, like how to do this, how to do this. Pretty much be there as a supporter. Yeah.
And I'm sure just lifting up his spirits.
Right.
That's how I feel. So you just referenced quarantine. We learned recently from you that your mom actually contracted COVID. I also know she's feeling better, which we're all very grateful, but you have been in your house for about 2 weeks now as a family, correct?
Yeah, correct. That's correct.
How's everybody doing?
Everybody's doing everyone is doing so far so good. Yeah.
Your mom's feeling better?
Yeah, she's feeling much better. So actually the doctor said that she's cleared of COVID-19, but it was really hard in the beginning when she actually had it. Yeah.
And you said, I think, was it 2 days ago, you finally got to go outside for the first time?
Yeah, oh yeah, I went outside for the first time like 2 days ago, and I went to just the shop, and I don't know, it was just a different feeling getting out for after 2 weeks, but it was really good.
Your mom has been, your whole family, but we actually honored your mom, Alphonsine, at our Lowell 100 celebration. 2 years ago, we had this big event where we identified 100 people in Lowell, both immigrants as well as people who had been born in the United States, who had influenced the lives of immigrant and immigration policies. And it was wonderful to have you there and your family. And so you've been really an important member of INE's family.
Thank you.
I want to remind people, if they would like to ask Rehema a question, please include it on the Q&A. We'd love to hear that as well. Can you tell us now, when you look to your future, what do you imagine? Like, what are you hoping for?
When I look into my future, I see myself actually working working for one of the organization, in between, close between United States and Africa. I see myself going back. I see myself working as going back to school for international development and pretty much doing so much big. Yeah.
Have you heard from anybody in Congo or Uganda that you stay in touch with? Is there any discussion around COVID and how it's affecting people there?
It's quite different because there's not that many people actually who have contracted it. But just since my mom actually contracted it, we've been talking to some family members, and they actually go scared because the news they see that a lot of people from where we are right now in America, they are dying and they are getting contracted. So they were just scared for us. But over there as well, the life stopped. But it's not as bad as here.
Yeah, you said your family has had a lot of people locally and abroad calling and sort of looking for, like, what is this like? What kind of questions are people asking your mom and your family?
I would say honestly, most of our family and friends, members, most of them, especially here, they were kind of like scared to see my mom getting sick because usually she's not the type of person that you see getting sick or anything. So, and she's out there in the community, so her getting sick, it was kind of like eye-opening for everybody to just be careful and to just be aware whatever they're doing. So they were kind of like asking her, what were your signs, things like that. And her signs were actually unusual. Like, it wasn't like the one you see on TV or coughing or anything. Started with her arm. So people have been asking her questions, what did she do to get rid of it. And she's been advising people things like that.
Well, we're really glad that she's doing well.
Yeah.
Priscilla would like just to say, I want to tell Rehema I am so proud of her, and I'm so glad to tell her friend, I'm so glad to be your friend and be part of the journey.
Oh my God.
She should soar higher. And you've got lots of love and support from this side.
Oh my God. Thank you so much.
Somebody asked a question. Catch it first. Hold on one second. What was it like for you? Can we talk a little bit more about transitioning from high school to college? You said that it actually went quite well, but you said you were also the first person to go to college. Your sister has gone to college since, right?
Right.
What did you advise her? Two of them. So what did you tell them before they went off?
I remember, I wouldn't say it's a mistake that I did. I mean, I went to college. It's about 45 minutes. I go to Fitchburg State. Shout out to everyone who goes there. Yeah, so I went to Fitchburg State, and it's about 45 minutes from here, from Lowell. So I would say the advice that I gave to my sister, my younger sister, I told her to save as much as she could to go to UMass, which is literally like right in my backyard.
Yeah.
So I tried as much to encourage her to get her GPA up when she was in high school, and she tried, and luckily when she was a senior, the only school she applied to, it was UMass, and she commutes. She's a freshman, so I'm just happy that I was able to be there and support her.
Yeah, and be a role model. You've also, speaking of encouragement, you've also encouraged other people to join Suitcase Stories.
Oh, yeah.
And that's funny because in the beginning you were like, I don't know if anybody wants to hear my story.
Right.
Why do you think it's important for people to hear these kinds of stories?
Honestly, I was so happy to encourage my friends to do it because most of my friends, actually, most of them, they are immigrants, or they have one or two of their parents or relatives who were immigrants. So, and I think they each and every one of us has a unique story to tell. And I think people are just so eager to hear it. Just there's no one who's like out there and they tell their story. Everyone has a story, and it's really powerful.
Yeah, my favorite part is when six strangers come together and backstage and you're all like, we'll try. And then you're
Actually,
good friends, and then you're multiplying and telling other people. So I'm grateful to you. And I can't wait to work with your friends.
Oh yeah, they're in the audience.
Yeah, anybody on this call that wants to, actually anybody on this call, we believe that everybody has a suitcase story. If you've traveled to Africa or you've traveled somewhere else in the world, our lives change because of that, and our perspectives change.
Right.
Norma wants to ask, what has been most surprising to you about being in the US?
Surprisingly, I would say like how fast in life it is, especially like growing and being a young adult, especially being the first, immigrant. I would say, figuring out things by myself, like, knowing that I have to go to school at the same time, I have to go to school and also work, support myself. So it's been surprising compared to some of my friends and family that I still have back home. They just enjoy life to the fullest. So it's been challenging knowing that, from like 16, you have to work. But the only thing also that I see from a positive side is that as long as I work hard, go to school, I can get a job that I know that I can be, still work and be good. Yeah.
We're here to help you. It's a good point, actually. I'm known for being really busy, like everybody, right? It's the most popular word we use in America, I feel like. And although I wish we didn't have a pandemic, one thing that I've really been reflecting on is that I don't want to return to that same level of busyness, because I'm having deeper conversations. I'm appreciating these moments. And so there isn't a lot of silver linings, but I'm trying to find them. Speaking of, we need to wrap up in a minute, but you did say you're a senior. You were supposed to graduate.
Yeah, I'm graduating, hopefully.
But your ceremony was canceled because you can't come together, right?
I mean, so far right now, my school, we're still waiting, until they say, people can gather. So hopefully we'll be able to do a, graduation ceremony in person.
You were also saying, though, that you found a silver lining in that it's probably that both of you and your sister were supposed to graduate, and it doesn't seem like, who knows what's going to happen with these ceremonies. But what was the silver lining? You had a really cute silver lining for that.
Yeah, so my sister, she was a senior also, and our graduation was on the same day. Besides hers was an A minor, I believe 10 or 11. So having a family member having to choose which one was, to go to, I was just like so exhausted. I was like, I just want to graduate. You can go wherever you want. I don't care. I don't mind.
Yeah, it's awkward for your friends and family.
Yeah,
it's like,
definitely.
Well, we don't want to choose, but we have a little bit of a surprise. You should know by now that we all adore you at the office. You have been a tremendous impact on our clients. And although we can't gather for your graduation, we made a quick little thing for you. I'm going to ask Kate to pull it up on the screen.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
Yeah, hold on. Can you see it?
Yeah, can I take a picture of it?
We'll get you it. I wish we could have all 70 people, but this is your closest colleagues in Lowell, and we just are so proud of you, Rehema. Like, you're just an amazing individual.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna cry.
Somebody just asked if you think you're gonna write another suitcase story. No pressure, but
I mean, you never know.
We'll see. You can tell a story about college.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. We have conversations every Wednesday. You're our first one we made cry.
I know. I'm trying. Hi, Lori, just me.
You can also access stories in we call it our video vault, by becoming a member of Suitcase Stories Circle, which is where there's activities and videos that you can share with your family now that we're all home. But most importantly, thank you for being part of our community. It's been great to connect and great to share and get to know our tellers more. So everyone have a wonderful night. And Rehema, please send your love for your family. And
thank you so much. Great. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.